What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Stephen Keeney. I have a small channel here on YouTube where I make martial arts videos that pertain to boxing, kickboxing, and other striking arts. So the other day I made a video that was very well received, which was different things people don't tell you when you first get into martial arts. And it's really a topic that is so broad, I can make 10 parts to that video if I wanted. And one thing I never really got around to talking about in that video was the idea of how to overcome the fear of competing. And I said, you know what, let's make a whole video on that topic because there's a lot of elements to that. And I think it's a lot of elements that people may not tell you up front, but it's something that, if you self-evaluate, you can navigate through these emotions, right? So let's take, for example, two separate ways of going about this. You have the fear of competing. So the fear of fighting in the context of competing, and the fear of fighting in the context of defending yourself in the street, or even just standing up for yourself in confrontation. So we're gonna hack out both of those. Let's talk first about competing, right? So as early as I can remember when I did wrestling in high school, I don't remember being too nervous about my matches. And I noticed that there was one thing that happened that started to make me nervous. And it was the idea that I started really caring about winning or losing. Now, the thing is this, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, oh yeah, well, of course you're going to want to win, right? So if the answer to not being nervous for a competition is not wanting to win, then if we want to win, we're always going to be nervous. Well, kind of, but let's backpedal a little bit, right? Understand that if you could have a room where you and a person could go enter a boxing match, a kickboxing match, a grappling match, any of the above, right? Let's say you had a friend. You guys are going to have a friendly roll or wrestling match in a matted room and no one's ever going to find out. Would you still be nervous? Probably not. Now, a lot of times when you enter a contact sport, you have the inherent safety factor. You can break a nose, you can break a rib, you can break a limb if someone holds on to a submission for too long or just cranks it, right out the gate. There's a lot of bad things that can happen to you. But from what I've gathered is that most people are not usually afraid of competing for the fear of actually getting hurt, although it's a factor. Most people, when they're afraid to compete, it comes from one of two things. The first thing is their confidence is low because they don't have any memories of success assuring them of future successes. So what do I mean by that? Well, understand that confidence can't come out of thin air. Confidence is really just another way of saying that you have proof of a potential outcome based on experiences that you've already had. So for example, if you know that you're an able-bodied person that can jump over, a 3-foot distance, right? Most human beings that are somewhat athletic and not plagued by some kind of health issues can probably achieve that. So if I had you jump between two buildings where it's like 1,000-foot drop and you're sure to die if you miss, and I told you, would you jump across that for $10? You'd probably do it. If I said, would you jump across that for $100? You'd probably do it. If I said, would you jump across it for $1 million? You'd probably do it. You know why? Because almost all of us watching this video could agree that there's almost no doubt in our mind why we wouldn't be able to jump 3 feet across a building. It's almost like a guarantee, unless you slip on a fucking banana peel or a piano falls out of the sky, you're gonna be fine. Now the thing is, obviously, you can't always know that for a fact when it comes to competing with someone. But the fact remains the same. If you're not confident, it could be right out the gate that you're lacking some kind of proof of concept in what it is you're trying to do. So for example, a lot of times, if you're someone that is, let's say, in boxing and you've been sparring, hard sparring, in the same format that the match will take place, let's say 3 2-minute rounds, against other people that have been competing, the idea of you going to compete would probably scare you a lot less than somebody that maybe has only done cardio boxing classes and they're signing up for some kind of fight night where it's a unsanctioned amateur boxing bout. They've never even done that shit before. So there's all this uncertainty, okay? So the first thing is, if you're nervous to compete, you may just be uncertain because you subconsciously know that you are not in fact ready. okay? The second thing is that a lot of times people are nervous. It's because they get to a point where they start to train a martial art. They train that martial art long enough that it replaces other hobbies they have. It replaces other things they could be doing with their time. It becomes a very big part of their identity, okay? And what happens is you realize that even though it's your first outing, whether it's, a wrestling match or a jiu-jitsu match or a boxing match, you're now leveraging your newfound identity with the outcome of this potential bout, whether you're going to win or lose. Now, here's the thing. Going back to the concept of, if you could go in a room where no one witnesses this bout, would you care if you won or lost? It's almost another similar hypothetical where if I sent you to a tournament that's going to be 10 matches consecutively, and no one will find out the outcome until after the tournament, you may be able to give up a few losses to get a few wins to not have a story of how you went 0-10. But the thing is a lot of times we know that, this newfound persona that we've maybe taken up in ourselves is going to be tested in this match, and the outcome might affect how we view ourselves. But a lot of times it doesn't even matter how we view ourselves. It's like the people around you that you've maybe told about this to or know you do this, they're the ones that give a shit. One thing about me is people always ask me, like, what got you into martial arts? And I'll tell you the truth. It's like, there wasn't too many times that I can say, like, I had this sparking moment. Me and my friends, we'd always box in the park. I did wrestling in high school. But really what it was is I got into karate because I liked Street Fighter 2 and I liked Ryu from Street Fighter 2. That's why I'm always trying to get the big triceps, because my goal in life is to just be Ryu. But that's not going too well. But the point I bring you is the first time I sparred in karate, Kyokushin rules, bare knuckle, low kicks, no shin guards. I didn't care how bad these leg kicks would hurt. I didn't care about getting punched without a glove on. I was excited to be there. I felt like this karate man I always wanted to be. There was only excitement. When I was, boxing people in the park and like people were watching, it felt like a Rocky movie. I wasn't putting too much thought, right? I remember my first Muay Thai fight, I just signed up. I went over there with my brother. I got in the ring in front of hundreds of people and threw down. I wasn't even so concerned with winning or losing. I just was like excited to be there. And then some switch happened to me where I started training with other people that were like, I already had been training with people. What I mean is I started training with more serious people where, in the past, if I was training in a room with 20 people where 5 were open to competition or doing competition, now I was in a room of like 12 people that are like all competing, right? Like I live in New York. Some of these guys were doing like these bigger amateur fights in like Madison Square Garden and shit of that nature. And you get to the point where now all of a sudden there's like this shift where you stopped having fun and you start giving a shit a little bit. And maybe that could be good because competition breeds success. But it's like something happens to you where you've been doing this long enough. This is like part of your identity. Now you start feeling like if you're not as good as you thought you were, you've lied to the universe, you've lied to other people, you've lied to yourself. And that's why me personally, like I've been training in martial arts for like 15 years in striking arts. And I always tell people like, I don't give a shit about styles. Like, even though I've competed in Muay Thai, I'll never say like, I'm a Muay Thai fighter. Even, I won't be like, oh, I'm a kickboxer, I'm a Dutch kickboxer, I'm a karate guy. Man, I don't give a shit. Like, I will, like, as a martial artist, just always have that white belt mentality where it's like, whenever I get to a certain point, I just want to be around people that are higher than me anyway. So that white belt mindset is always there. It's like, okay, even if you think you're this black belt in a martial art, you're like the top of the pecking order, you can go somewhere else and you're like a white belt, right? It's like, that's the thing, is that a lot of people, they put too much emphasis on where they are in this pecking order, who they think they are by being a martial artist or a fighter, and then they get so nervous to compete because they don't want that, they don't want to lose that. They don't want to lose who they thought they were. They don't want to disappoint themselves, okay? And the truth is like, you don't have to feel that way. You should really have this mindset where like, you're going to train as hard as you can. You're going to control the outcome as best you can. You're going to want to be in control of as many variables as you can. But at the end of the day, you know, victory, they always say victory can be guaranteed, but you got to understand something. If you're so afraid to lose your first fight, did you ever consider that 50% of people lose their first match or fight? You heard that right. Statistically speaking, 50% of people must lose their first match. And guess what? You know how many people go 0-2? Do the math, right? You have, at any given time, everybody's going to go 2 times. What's going to happen is you're going to have people that are 1-1. You're going to have people that are 2-0. You're going to have people that are 0-2. And guess what percentage of people are going to have to go 0-2 for those numbers to work out? 25%. And guess what amount of people are going to go 2-0? 25%. So understand a lot of the time, like, you know, this concept of like a record, or, you know, like if you win or lose your first jiu-jitsu match or whatever, a boxing match, it's like, you're not this loser that you think you are, right? And it's like, the more you do, the more chances you take, the more chances you have to pick up a win. It's like the law of averages. It's like, you know, let's say like you sign up for a marathon and then you fail at that marathon, or like you don't show up for that marathon, you don't train, so you just don't go, you opt out. It's like, well, you don't have to wait the next year for that same marathon. Go look for another marathon. Go look for one that takes place 3 months from now. And then you don't have to wait so long to like redeem yourself. And that's another thing you got to remember too about being nervous to compete. If you go out there and you don't have a good night and you lose, it's not like this thing that can't be redeemed. Even if you do say, oh man, I told everybody I'm like, you know, fucking training jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, I told all my friends I could choke them all out, and I just lost my first match to another guy that looked like he sucked. Go do it again, and then you can redeem yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's like this weird thing where we always think in our mind that people are going to judge us or remember everything. But I'll tell you the truth, and you can think about this yourself. Your circle of people around you right now, depending on the type of lifestyle you live, but like me, for instance, I'm 30, right? I think from 20 to 25 to 30, and probably from 35, you sort of recycle the people around you anyway. And especially in the training room, right? Like whether it's karate dojos, jiu-jitsu dojos, mixed martial arts gyms, boxing gyms, faces come, faces go. People change, people leave, people move on. So like, even if you have this sense of duty that you want to do well to impress or just not let down the people around you, these people may not even be in your life in 5 years. So what's going to happen is, like, you know, when you think about the difference between Instagram and Facebook, how Instagram has all these memories, like right the fuck there if you scroll down from a few years ago, you know, like 2018 photos are easily accessible, but Facebook photos are like lost in the sauce, like on the internet, like you don't even remember how to sign into Facebook, right? That's how this match is going to be. It's going to be forgotten about. Nobody's going to give a fuck in 5 years. Or maybe even 1 year. So that's why like a lot of people, they get in their own head for competing because of the social aspect, and they really should just not worry. In fact, what I always tell people too, because, you know, one thing about me is like, yeah, like if I competed again, I'd probably be the same way. I got this YouTube channel. I tell all these guys that like I know kickboxing, and it's like, I'm not going to go compete against some fucking scrub, right? Like if I have years of experience, I'm not going to, there's no honor in like being a sandbagger, which means you compete against crappier people and then act like you're a hero. Because don't get me wrong, we got a lot of that, okay? And that's like a whole nother topic. But well, my point is, this is a natural thing that's going to happen over and over again and repeat itself, and you're going to have to overcome it again and again. It's not like something where you just become the Zen master, where you never have to worry about this again. It's something you have to work at. And the best way to think of it, which I had this epiphany one time where I didn't really get this from anybody, but I thought of it myself. If you want to reference it to like a video game, a lot of people, what will happen is they'll have a concrete goal. And when they don't reach that goal, it breaks them spiritually. It's like it really hurts them. And a lot of times people always say, like, if you have a ultimate goal, you should break it up into sub goals with almost like deadlines to reverse engineer the process. And it's a good idea, but you know, the problem with that can be if you're not on track, now it's like breaking your spirit earlier on. So here's what you should do. Here's what I do and here's what I would recommend to you. You need to think of, if you are thinking of your life as a game, and this martial arts journey is an RPG game, you got to just think of it as something where I'm going to see how far I can go, right? How far can I take it? It's even like me with the YouTube, right? Like, there's really no goal, because if I had a concrete goal, I want to have 10,000 subscribers year one. I want to have 100,000 subscribers and a silver plaque within 2-3 years. You're going to be so like hard on yourself, and you're doing well, but you might like walk away from it because you feel like this failure. You got to just almost think of it like any progress is better than no progress, and I'm just going to go as far as I can go. And that way you won't beat yourself up so bad if you lose, and you won't go in with this massive expectation either. And the irony with what I'm saying is that if you think about it, there are so many fucking people out there that wake up every day and they're like, I want to become an actor. I want to work at becoming, a director. I want to become a champion fighter. I want to win the wrestling, state championships, in my senior year. Oh, like I want to win this grappling tournament. And it's great. But if you think about it, it's like a lot of people that have achieved great things in life in combat sports, they may not have ever even had that mind frame. Like, some of them were just enjoying the process. They were very good at it. They did it for long enough. And eventually they were kind of just like the last man standing. So you almost have to have that mindset. Like, if you're nervous to compete, it could very well just be because you're in your own head and you're making way too much out of this event than it really will go on to be. And as far as safety, obviously you have to look out for yourself. Obviously you have to make sure you don't get hurt. But when you, and like, disclaimer, right? Like, I'm not a doctor, but when you think about the things that can happen to you in amateur fighting, it's like this weird thing where anything can happen in there. You could like fucking die from a brain aneurysm or some kind of a bad concussion, or, some kind of crazy organ failure from eating a body shot. But it's like, you almost have to think to yourself logically, statistically, how many people do this every weekend all around the world amongst a few different combat sports? And then you have to think to yourself, like, okay, people do die, but what is really the percentage of people that are like really dying out here, okay? And once you rule that out, or, I'm not gonna say rule it out, but you make peace with it, whatever it is, then it's like, okay, what are some of the worst things that can really happen to you? You could break a nose, you could break a bone, but if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't know about the grapplers, but when it comes to the striking, if I'm gonna go into a striking match, I'm pretty fucking at peace with breaking my wrist, with breaking my nose, breaking my toe, breaking a rib, in place of having some kind of a serious brain injury or like bodily injury. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if you're partaking in contact sports to begin with, even if you did break your fucking nose, be glad it wasn't a bad life-changing concussion. Even if you did break your wrist, be glad that, like, you didn't completely tear your shoulder, okay? Like, you get what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, like, nothing's gonna happen to you, but you almost have to approach these categories of, like, why am I so nervous? Okay, I'm making too much out of the event. Okay, check. I'm acting like this win or loss defines me. Check. You can always do it again, and nobody's gonna care in a few years. Safety. Okay, what's really the worst that's gonna happen to me? Am I at peace with it? Is it really the end of the world? Okay, and then could I die? Yeah, there's a chance you could die, but more than likely you're probably not going to, okay? So you just have to approach all the things that worry you and analyze them, and just one at a time approach them, okay? And what that will do is it will ease your nervousness and anticipation, because even if you still have those nerves, you'll at least understand them, okay? Like, I'll never forget, this is unrelated to fighting, but one day I was in a job interview where they wanted us to do a driving test and then interview after. And I couldn't fucking believe how afraid these guys were for the driving test. Now remember, these are all adult men that drive every single day. that all passed a license test at some point. But now that we're being evaluated by an employer doing like the same thing, parallel park, 3-point turn, basic stuff, because it's in the context of this job, everybody's nervous. They're freaking the fuck out. And it's like, you have to, it's kind of like John Donner says, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, Gordon Ryan's coach, is that you need to see through the illusion of competition, okay? And what he means by that is, if you do something every single day, like this is something you can do very calmly, like you're eating a bowl of cereal calm, and then all of a sudden there's all these exterior factors like people watching, an audience, some kind of reputation on the line, bragging rights, whatever it is, the moment gets to you. At the end of the day, you are essentially the one letting all of that shit affect you. Because the physical act of doing this thing is something that you do all the time, right? And that's why me personally, when it comes to striking, I really do like the fucking heavy bag, because this is like a side note, if you guys are nervous to do a striking match, go on a fucking heavy bag and brutalize that shit for as many rounds and as many minutes per round you're going to compete. And a lot of coaches will say things like, oh, you know, if you're going to compete 2-minute rounds, do it for 2-minute rounds, do it for 3 minutes. I don't fucking agree with that. You got to max the output and go hard. And guess what? I know you're going to experience these fight nerves and stuff like that. It might make you more tired and adrenaline from someone trying to knock you out. But if you know in your heart that you can go for that time and it's coming from you, it's like a self-guided round, it will give you confidence. Because you got to understand, it's like if you're going from the mitts to like sparring and now you're going to fight, you may instinctually know deep down that like you've never really went off on somebody to hurt them. You've only sparred like semi-light, but when you're smashing the pads, it's like a guided round. You've never even went through 3 2-minute rounds of just you bringing it forth. And that's why I think those kind of like fight simulation heavy bag rounds can really build you some confidence. But it's the same concept. Like if you can go hard in the bag for that many rounds, it's something you do every day, then just go in the ring and just do it and react and set up your attacks and counter and react and don't even think, just let your instincts. And then that way you're not letting all the outside things affect you. You're, as John Donner says, seeing through the illusion of the competition, okay? So that covers the fear of competing. I hope that was a good enough example. Obviously, this stuff is all so much easier said than done. I mean, I'm the one telling you this, and if I signed up for a fight right now, I would have to give myself all the same self-assurance, right? Like I said, you never really beat this. This is something you fight constantly. When it comes to the concept of being afraid of a fight in the street or to defend yourself, I'll kind of start back with some of the same pieces of advice. A lot of times, self-assurance comes from past experiences. The thing with self-defense is that the reason most people will train self-defense, whether it's like they're actually going to like a self-defense school or they're, you know, a boxer that wants to use their boxing for self-defense, or they go to jiu-jitsu and they want to use their jiu-jitsu for self-defense. Sometimes if you don't really feel confident getting in a fight is because naturally you've never been in a real fight before. But newsflash, I'll be honest with you, aside from, you know, inner city areas or impoverished areas with high crime, like most human beings have never been in like a real fight before. And another thing is, for all like you college guys and bar goers that get in these stupid fucking fights, like understand that 2 guys with egos fighting is not the same as a like genuinely insane motherfucker that is really trying to hurt you. That's called a violent attacker, okay? There's a difference. There's or someone following you on the road, okay? Like, and like, you know, they try to like corner you to attack you. I've had people chase me on the road and like, it's pretty fucking wild. It's not like being at the bar and like, you know, Dave that's always a dick to you, you're gonna finally stand up to him, okay? It's not like, there is a difference. So understand, when it comes to being afraid of the world and scared of these confrontations, it's because you've never been in a fight before. But to be brutally honest, even if you've trained jiu-jitsu, trained boxing, you're always going to kind of know that what you've done is very limited. And that's why I would say, if you're someone that is afraid of being attacked or just confrontation, there's a lot of hobbies you can get into, but I'm going to be honest with you. You got to do striking and grappling, and you got to do some mixed martial arts. I'll be the first person to always tell people, if you're naturally drawn to jiu-jitsu, do jiu-jitsu, become a no-gi grappler. Like, what are you going to like pressure yourself? I got to get my stand-up game. No, I mean, like, why would you want to be like a shit or subpar MMA fighter when you could just become like a great grappler because you're naturally inclined to it? Same with striking. You know, in Thailand, sometimes like if you're a great boxer, they'll try to just bring you up as a boxer. They won't even put you in Muay Thai because they're like, it's more money in boxing. Always do what you're drawn to. But what I'm getting at is, for the sake of this video, if you're someone where your like self-defense and unarmed combat means that much to you, and the reason I say this is because, you know what, there was a time in my life where this became me. And I had a few things happen where I really was like, man, I know you're supposed to focus on work and college and all this stuff. I want to know that like people my size, I can beat up like most people my size on earth. And I wasn't going to be happy until that happened. I trained mixed martial arts. I got into grappling. I was doing jiu-jitsu, no-gi, sparring, rolling. I had wrestled in high school. We were doing rounds from the feet, you know? I started sparring in boxing gyms. And like, let me give you the formula for a non-MMA fighter, regular civilian, how to learn how to fight. I'm gonna tell you right now. Obviously, you gotta do classes or personal training, whatever method you do. But the two things you gotta do is, or I'll say three things you gotta do is this. You gotta be doing some kind of 16-ounce glove sparring kind of hard, whether it's kickboxing rounds or boxing rounds. It's gotta be real sparring, okay? Hard sparring. Because here's the thing, right? I can make a whole video about the nuanced difference between hard sparring and light sparring and why there's a place for both and why only doing one is bad. But we're talking right now, if you're someone, you wanna learn how to defend yourself, you gotta be getting blasted in the face, and you gotta be blasting people in the face on like a semi-regular basis to bring the realness into it, okay? You gotta be getting bloody noses. You gotta be giving people bloody noses, okay? It's, people act like, you know, you go to a boxing gym, it's gladiator shit, but it's like, hey, do you wanna train in these martial arts on the off chance you could maybe defend yourself? Or even as a non-competitive fighter, do you want concrete assurance? Most men on earth would not be able to knock you out. You'd be able to like get in there, move, jab them, you know, follow up with the right hand and combo up and hurt them. When it comes to grappling, like it's only enough to learn some judo, learn some jiu-jitsu. No, you gotta be doing real rounds from the feet. You gotta, you know, bump, shake hands, whatever. Start from the feet. Shoot takedowns on each other. Start on the feet and get it to the ground. Or if they take you down, learn in that in between of getting taken down to like retain your guard or be able to like get back up or sweep them and get on top. And then the third thing is to do like some kind of MMA sparring. Now, normally MMA sparring isn't like particularly full-blown like mixed martial arts gloves, like the 4-ounce ones you see in the UFC and hitting each other hard. But you know, you got different variations. You got like grappling with the MMA gloves, doing some light ground and pound. You got like shoot boxing rounds where you might be like kickboxing on the feet and you shoot on each other. And the second it goes to the ground, you start back up. Sometimes you can do that with boxing gloves so that you can kind of hit each other a little bit harder and also just get as good as you can with the grappling with the boxing gloves, even if you're shooting takedowns. But these are like the methods where you learn to really fight, okay? And if you learn to really fight, even if you're not the best, it's like you partaking in these activities is going to make your fear of fighting in the street or, you know, defending yourself in a violent attack skyrocket versus the person that's only doing jiu-jitsu, only doing no-gi grappling, only doing karate class, only doing Muay Thai class, okay? Like, when you hit every box, you're gonna want to defend yourself. And that's why me, as you guys know, I like the striking. Like me personally, I've always found that I excel more in like kickboxing and boxing than I do in mixed martial arts or like Muay Thai. Like, especially in this point in my life right now, like I like to do everything, but I'm really doubling down on my kickboxing, my striking. That's what I like to do. But me personally, having confidence in the street or just everyday life, a big part of it comes from my jujitsu rounds. A big part of it comes from the times I've defended takedowns, the times that I've, retained my guard from a guy mounting me or swept him and got back on top. The fact that I learned how to level change and how to like do a step jab and then shoot off of a step jab and shoot under the right hand, get perpendicular with a guy, get a gable grip, knee tap him, get him over, mat return him. Those mixed martial arts principles that are even pretty basic, they're amazing for defending yourself in the street. And I'll be honest with you, it's like one of those things where, even if you're a actual competitor in one of these martial arts, you could always do the opposite. Like let's say you're a striker with grappling or a grappler with striking. You could do it once every like 10 days. You could do it like 3 times a month. After 5 years, you kind of know a little something. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you're not just somebody that's so blind to all the other martial arts that, like I said, that true confidence is kind of never going to cultivate itself. Because even if you're like a champion boxer, if you know absolutely nothing about any other martial art, and you know that there's these hooligans walking around that know how to scoop people up and dump them on their head, there's always going to be that doubt, okay? And I'm talking numbers like beat up 99% of people your weight on earth. Obviously, there's no like metric to tell that. But I'm just saying, when you get experience doing these different martial arts, you will just have this certain confidence and certainty that you're like, this guy could be the toughest dude ever, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be okay, all right? And that covers that. I covered competition, being nervous of competition, and being nervous of violent altercations in an unarmed situation. So this video got a little long. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next one. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And for those of you that made it to the end of the video, drop a comment. Let me know you made it to the end of the video. Talk to you soon.